Hello, fellow photographers and Lightroom enthusiasts, and welcome to another video in which I'm going to edit a random image from my Lightroom collection to apply an intentional editing process. And yeah, here's how that works. So as you can see, there are 2073 images in this collection, and yeah, let's pick a random one. So let's go to the random number generator and generate a random number, which is 321. And yeah, I have a good feeling about this, so let's see which image that is. 321, an image that is already edited. All right, then let's generate a new number, 420. Might be the same day actually, and it's this image here. All right, so let's edit this image with intention, meaning that I need to have a vision for that image and base my editing decisions upon reaching this vision. All right, so let's have a look first at the lens correction. Let's enable profile correction. And all right, this got rid of the barrel distortion and of the vignetting, and it did quite a good job here. So this is 14 millimeter, so it's very wide angle. And there are some things that I don't really like in the foreground, but yeah, let's just leave it as it is. I don't need to transform anything. I need to do the basic adjustments right now. All right, so I think this image in general might be a little bit too warm. This was it's not a very cold day, but it was a wet September day. So already a little bit cold. And yeah, I think that I want to also bring a little bit more of a colder feeling towards this image. And yeah, just really focus on the waterfall here. So this might actually really be a high contrast image of everything being pretty dark. And yeah, bringing way more focus towards the waterfall and the pattern here in the pond. And yeah, I don't think that there's a lot more to it. So let's do that. All right, so let's first have a look at the temperature. I think I might actually bring it just a little bit down, just a tiny bit. So this is before and this is after, just for this cold base tone of the image. For the tint, I don't think that there's any color cast, neither green nor magenta, so I'll leave that as it is. And I want to bring up some of those shadows. Some of the parts are quite dark in this image, or the darker parts are quite dark, so let's bring them up. Let's reduce the highlights. There's a lot of highlight here in the waterfall, but I don't want to be too blown out, so let's just bring it down. Let's increase the whites for some context, reintroducing brightness in the waterfall or the brightest parts, but that's okay because I reduced the highlights. So to maintain contrast, I want to bring up the whites and bring down the blacks a little bit. So working the highlights and the shadows in this case was to balance out the tonal range. And with that, I lose some contrast, and I'm going to counterbalance the lack of contrast by bringing up the whites and bringing down the blacks, which will, both of which will increase the contrast. Now I have some shadow clipping, and I can see in those parts here, for example. And yeah, I could also just hold down the Alt key, go to the blacks, and bring them down, and now you can see where the shadow clipping is happening. So yeah, it's very minor, it's fine. Now let's increase the texture a little bit, and let's also bring up the clarity. Yes, and the dehaze, I think I will leave the dehaze for now as it is. And maybe it's a little bit too cold. So I think I will bring a colder tone with the split toning. So let's just leave the temperature slider for now. So this is before and this is after. All right, this could actually benefit from a little bit more whites and highlights. So let's see, this is before and this is after. All right, it's a little bit more of a HDR looking image. I need to bring up the highlights again. All right, this looks fine. Okay, now let's go to the masking. And here, yeah, I need to think a little bit. So there is no light coming in. The sky was covered completely with the sky, so everything is illuminated more or less equally. So it's like a big softbox. So I need to direct the light with some local adjustments and bring some light to the scene. First of all, let me um, darken the foreground. So I just use a brush here, go along those edges, and just the closest foreground to me. So this would be the first starting point. Oh, that was a little bit too much. I think it's a good starting point. Yes. Now let's bring down a little bit more the exposure here. And I want to bring up the blacks to not have any shadow clipping, and now bring down the shadows actually. Okay, so this is what this mask did before and after. It's quite a difference, but it really helps bringing more attention towards the waterfall with a darker foreground. Okay, maybe let's get down a little bit more with the exposure. All right, so this is before and this is after. And this first step already helps by or with bringing more attention towards the waterfall. Now, I have this big side here on the left, which I'm not sure if I want to crop out or also just bring down the brightness. So let's have a look how bringing in a smooth linear gradient works. Very soft and very smooth, and just bring down the exposure on this edge here. Also shifting the focus more towards the waterfall again. All right, now let's use a luminance range. Let's target the brighter parts, just the very bright parts. And now let's intersect this one with a brush to target the waterfall. Now we have a nice targeted selection of the waterfall and all those bright parts here at the bottom. Let's see, this is not included here. All right. And here I want to bring down the blues a little bit, so make it a little bit cooler. And let's see if I want to actually increase dehaze to bring out a little bit more structure. Maybe just a little bit. Increase the contrast by bringing up the clarity slider. And let's see if I need to bring up the whites, but bring down the highlights. Or bring down the whites and increase the highlights. Yeah, this should work. All right, so that I don't have any shadow clipping, but I don't want it to look washed out or gray. And I'll increase the exposure slightly. All right, so this is what this mask did before and after, a little bit cooler. But I lost a lot of detail here, so this was not the way to go. Yeah, but I think this looks pretty nice. Let's get another brush and just target this area here. And I want everything but this part. Bring down the exposure just a little bit more for more focus on the waterfall. All right. Now here I want to actually increase a little bit the exposure. And here as well. So let's simulate some light here. I don't necessarily want to target the waterfall, it's already pretty bright. Let's just increase the exposure and the whites and the temperature. Okay, now I want to target those parts here in the stone, and I want to increase here the clarity just to bring out a little bit more structure here. Also increase the whites from our punch. All right. Now let's bring another radial gradient in here to target the water here. And for that, I want to increase the clarity. Yes, and reduce the texture. Okay, actually want to reduce the texture here as well. Also the clarity, make it a little bit more soft. Now a big radial gradient. Invert that. And oops, get rid of the part where the light is coming in. So more or less this part here. And now let's reduce the exposure here. All right. So this is before the masking and this is after the masking. And yeah, I think it works pretty well actually. Let me go to this mask here. It's a little bit too bright. So let's just dial down the exposure a little bit, or actually maybe the whites. Okay. Now I need to go to this mask again, the first mask, and let's bring just a little bit more luminance back. I'm mainly looking at this corner here. All right, now I want to use a brush and target specific areas. Whoops. Yeah, it's okay. That I want to darken down. All right, so now I selected some of the parts in the image which are a little bit darker and should be even further reduced in brightness. So let's bring down very slightly those parts. And this just creates a little bit more of a 3D effect. So let's see, this is before and this is after. This is before and this is after. It just brings a little bit more depth to the image. Now let's use another brush and do the same thing for the brighter parts. All right, I think that should do it. And here I want to bring in a little bit more of brightness. So let's just increase the whites a little bit, giving everything a little bit more punch and structure. Let's see, bringing up the exposure slightly, bringing down the whites again. And this is what this mask did. So this is before and this is after. Also bringing a little bit more 3D-ness to the image, dodging and burning. Okay, so yeah, I might actually also bring up the blacks a little bit, make everything a little bit softer. And I could actually try and have a look at how this would look like with a radial gradient to bring in more softness. By raising the blacks in the center part here and reducing the dehaze and the clarity. All right. I think this looks fine. All right, so this is before applying those masks and this is after applying those masks. Before and after. Maybe it was a little bit too soft. So let's bring down the blacks again. Let's see, before and after. Yeah, I think this looks pretty nice. We could also increase the structure actually. So things that I'm hitting or receiving more light can also have a little bit more structure. All right. So let me have a look at the before and after for right now. So this is before and this is after. And yeah, I think I quite like it actually. Yeah, I'm not very sure about the center part here. I think it has a little bit too much haze maybe, or a little bit too much softness. So let's just bring in a gradient and bring down the blacks in these parts here, just reducing the softness of those parts. All right, so really working with big masks here. What is this one here? This is not. Oh, okay. This is before and this is after. Yeah, I think this actually, I just lose some structure here. So let's bring down the highlights. Yeah, all right. And I'm not sure about the blues in the waterfall. Let's see, before and after, before and after. And yeah, this looks already pretty nice, I think. Now let's see, going to the calibration tab, we could further enhance the saturation of the blue primary, which always looks pretty nice. And yeah, let's go to the color mixer and play around with some colors here. All right, so we have some oranges, I guess. Yep. But let's actually bring them towards the yellows, I think. And let's see the yellows. All right, a lot of yellows, which could, I don't want to make them too warm. So let's leave them as they are, maybe a little bit more towards the oranges. Now for the greens. Yeah, I could actually make it a little bit more artistic, this whole thing, and bring the greens a little bit more towards the yellows. Just a little bit. Let's see for the aqua colors. There are some aqua colors here in the waterfall, so let's bring that actually towards the blues. And the blues are a little, I thought I bring them a little bit more towards the aqua, but actually let's leave them as they are. And let's see for purple. If there are, let's bring them to the blues. And magenta, I don't think there are any. All right, first of all, I think I want to reduce the blue color here. So let's get rid of this, its saturation. On the aqua, I shifted them towards the blue, so let's also bring down the aqua colors in saturation. And now for the greens. Yeah, I brought the greens more towards the yellow, but I could really bring out more of those green and yellow colors to make the scene a little bit more lush. Let's see if I bring them towards the greens. No, it doesn't look too well. I want to have them towards the yellows, actually. I think that works pretty nice. For the yellows, yeah, let's decrease this yellow saturation. Let's also decrease the orange saturation. And the reds, I think they are, yeah, let's just bring them down. Right, luminance now. All right, so yellows should be up a little bit. Oranges, yeah, actually as well, I think. And the greens might bring them down. Yeah, it's okay. Let's do that. Our colors, let's bring them down a little bit. Blues, I guess, let's bring them up actually, bringing more luminance towards the, to the waterfall here. Purple, I don't think there are any. Let's bring them down a little bit, and magenta as well. All right, so this is before and this is after. Now I want to have actually another, let me think, a radial gradient, I think. Just very big one here in this part, in these parts. And let's invert that. I want to have those borders a little bit more, more dark. So actually something like a really big and strange radial gradient. That's fine. All right. Now let's bring down the exposure, I guess. Just bringing more focus towards the waterfall. So this is the last edit or the last mask. Yeah, I think it works pretty well. Just bringing a little bit more attention to the waterfall. Right, let's see for the color grading. In the beginning, I said I want to have a colder look. I've gone a different way, but it turned out pretty nice. So maybe not the best video to show an intentional editing process. But yeah, sometimes things can change. But still, yep, let's bring some blue and some colder colors to the scene. Now the midtones, where are those midtones? Yep, let's bring them up slightly. And maybe also go blue and therefore a little bit colder. And now let's go for the highlights. Let's see where they are. Yeah, in the water, obviously. I think I should go a little bit more towards the, I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to change the highlights. I just brought some colder colors to the shadows and midtones. Already helps with a cooler effect of the image. And yes, one thing, detail. Let's bring up the sharpening. And let's apply some masking. All right. A lot of masking actually. Let's have a look. So, yep, this looks nice. And I'm actually not sure if I should, as a last step, bring down the overall saturation. I think just a little bit. And yeah, I'm done. So quite happy with the edit. Yeah, oftentimes the colors really make a difference. And this is more of an artistic edit. I know that. And it might not be to your liking, but I personally quite like the result. So yeah, here's the starting point. This is the raw file from which we started. And this is the final version. And yeah, I'm quite happy with the result. I think it transpires a nice mood and gives more of this cold feeling and bringing attention to the waterfall on the structure and the structure in the pond. And yeah, I might let this image sit, might clean it up a little bit with the removal later on. But for now, this is it. And I hope you liked this video. And if you did, then give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, then give it a thumbs down or write in the comment what you didn't like or what you liked. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope I see you in the next video.